Hi and welcome to today's episode. We're chilling out with a really cool question.
Welcome to TGI Monday. So we've just been predicted a 3-month heat wave this summer, which seems to have already begun. So
was that in the Daily Express though?
Yeah, well, it might have been. So we're not absolutely relying on it. But I just thought, what are your best things to do when it's really, really hot? Where do you like to be, or what do you like to be doing?
As long as the pollen count is down, I like going out on my bike because it's nice and cool on that.
Oh, you get a little bit of...
Well, if you're doing 15 mile, 20 mile an hour, it's a lot cooler than if you're sitting around.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm on my bike, I'm not doing 15 or 20 miles an hour.
Me neither. But we had a massive water fight yesterday in the garden for Father's Day. We went and bought ammunition, and it was really, really, really fun.
There you go. I was with my niece and nephew yesterday in the paddling pool, which was also quite fun. So, yeah. What about you, Dan?
Saturday was really hot, wasn't it? And I had my barbecue all day long. So we did breakfast.
So you were standing by a fire.
What do you have for breakfast on the barbecue?
I'd made bacon earlier on in the week, so I'd salted the bacon, and by Friday it was ready for drying, and then I did it on the barbecue in the morning.
That is hardcore.
And then I low and slowed pork the rest of the day and did pork sandwiches. So anyway,
you would have been disgusted with my 30-pound Lidl's barbecue.
Yeah, I would have been.
Yeah, there you go.
You're right.
There you go. What about you, Paul? Are you a heat lover?
I like to go to churches with really efficient heating systems that are on and wear lots of heavy clergy robes.
You would go down Shrewsbury Creme, they have lovely aircon in there. That's lovely aircon in Shrewsbury Creme.
See, if it's hot, I just think the best thing is to be on the beach, isn't it? You can go in the water and cool off. You usually have a little bit of a breeze around the beach. You don't have anything to do. That's basically
and a cold
thing.
beer.
And
quite
a cold
crucially.
Yeah, you just don't have to do too much if it's too hot. Well, anyway, we have got a question about being really cold. So there we go. That's my little neat segue into today's topic. This is a question that comes from Corinne, who sent it through Facebook. And she asks, what are your thoughts on cryogenic freezing from a Christian and spiritual perspective? So, there we go. Harold, let's start with you, because you've got the big textbook with cryonics in front of you.
It's not my text. It's not really a text. It's more like kind of...
Looks like an Iron Maiden album.
No, it doesn't. There's no big skulls in it for us. Basically,
it's just brains.
Should we say what cryogenics is?
Explain it.
Yeah, basically what you do with cryogenics is... at the moment, years ago, they used to just put people in liquid nitrogen, which is minus 170 something, I can't remember now.
193, I think.
Is it? Excellent, thank you. So you put them in liquid nitrogen. You put them in that, and then it freezes them. But the problem is with that, what happens is all the water in your body crystallises and it destroys all the tissues. So what they do now is they pump your body full of what essentially is a bit like antifreeze, right? It's a kind of chemical that stops the crystallisation of water, right? So when you are frozen, right, the tissues are intact. So the idea is that in the future, you can be defrosted, right? And then whatever disease you've got by then
might be able to be cured. Yeah.
So that's the idea behind it. It made me think of a film I saw on the weekend called Idiocracy, where this was done. But in the future, what happened was everybody got stupider rather than more clever. Because the idea was that evolution edits out all the people who are stupid. But because we're kind of progressing in a comfortable society, it's just the people who have most kids.
Oh, okay.
So that was the premise of the film, and it's absolutely hilarious because this guy...
That is brilliant.
This guy, everyone's got an IQ of 72. So and they're watering plants with Gatorade.
Oh, my word. So people do this. Not very many people do this, do they? You have to be pretty wealthy and probably American, I want to say.
And in the 1990s, I remember a show I watched of some rather crusty old looking billionaires who had got to the end of their life and suddenly had like this kind of existential crisis that they were about to die. And instead of spending all their money on helping poor kids live, they decided they would try to extend their own lives. And they were trying to find this kind of cure of death. Now obviously in the 1990s they would have they've been long since gone by now. But I suspect that's what they've done, is they've cryogenically frozen themselves, because that was kind of their last chance saloon, really, if they didn't manage to cure or stop their own deaths, was to try to get themselves reawakened.
And that's basically behind all of this, isn't it? That people don't want to accept their own mortality. Yeah. They don't want to believe that they have to die. And I think when I was thinking about this, I was thinking, you know, there are all those examples, aren't there, in the Bible of people who come back to life. So famously Lazarus, who Jesus brings back to life, but, you know, others as well. But the point is they are all still mortal. They all die. And I can't help feeling that even if one day the technology is such that it were possible to bring a cryogenically frozen person back to life in some way,
it wouldn't end death.
They would still be mortal. They would still die again.
Because probability shows that even if we're able to cure every disease and keep us, you know, eternally youthful, eventually an accident will get us. So the only thing that actually cures death in the end is Jesus.
Right.
Because what brings death to us in the first place is sin, and what cures death is Jesus.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the only hope.
And I think it's a real sign, isn't it, of how our culture tries to put that aside and hide that under the table and say, no, actually, you know, we can somehow cheat death. We can somehow.
Well, it also implies that we're just, to put it crudely, just meat. And actually, the best sermon, I mean, most sermons we all forget, don't we? But there was a guy in church for years and years. I'd never heard him speak at all, other than at the piece. And then all of a sudden he was at the front, and it was the Queen's Jubilee. And I'll never forget, he stood there and went, Jubilate! And then went on to talk about our bodily death is our ultimate Jubilee.
Yes.
The freedom, the stepping into the fuller life.
Right.
And that in this life, we get glimpses of heaven and hell, for sure, include within these bodies. But at that moment, when we lose these bodies for however long, whatever you believe about the resurrection, it is a jubilee. It is our ultimate setting free, ultimately moving into life, which temporarily still. But this isn't. We're not just this.
No.
But everybody believes in some kind of continuation after death, and that's something. This is a very old idea, really, because if you go right back to the Greeks, they had this idea that the elite would continue in the memory of them. So you had Hector and Achilles, who, because they were heroes, their memory would live on. And this idea of the elite being the people who would continue on while the rest of us would all languish in the land of the forgotten is actually what we've gone back to. So what's happened in our society isn't that we've progressed into this sort of Star Trek universe. Is what's happened is, as we've ditched the kind of Christian ideas, we've actually just reverted back to very old Greek ideas about eternity and how the elite, through their own power, can continue after death by being heroic. You know, you think about memory of the people will live on. Oh yeah, it's the same thing. Exactly. It's just a Greek idea. And but that means that the only people who will live on are the people who have the power
and the wealth
to create these memories and make their mark.
Yeah.
So
Paul, what's your take on it? Do you think?
Well, when I first heard the question, I thought, oh, here we go, some quack. And then I'm really pleased the question came in, because thank you for the question. I think it's a really good question, because it got me looking back at St. John's Gospel, chapter 11, the death of Lazarus. Yeah. And it got me thinking, where was Lazarus? You know, did he get raised by Jesus and come around and go, oh, I'm back in Palestine at this dump. I was in heaven a moment ago.
Yeah.
It's like Buffy season 7.
and then I thought, well, was Lazarus frozen in time? Was he conscious of the passage of the 4 days before his resurrection? Then I got thinking about cryogenics, and I thought, well, say you did have the money and the power to preserve yourself, would you take that option? And then I thought, well, how would you protect your cryogenic factory from nuclear war or an asteroid hitting the planet? All these Armageddon scenarios you see in the movies. So I'm really pleased about the question. Got me thinking.
It is really interesting. I mean, one of the things I was thinking about was, imagine you'd done it, and say in 200 years' time you did come back, I mean, it would be weird, wouldn't it?
It'd be
awful.
Well, all your relatives and friends
there wouldn't be
are
anyone
unlikely
you know
to have also been cryogen, unless they're also billionaires.
You probably couldn't speak the same language as everybody.
I mean, I found when I moved to America for 2 years and came back, I was like, oh, you know, the whole world's changed without me being here. And, you know, it would be awful.
Well, it's Buck Rogers, isn't it?
But there's
Buck Rogers.
Space Who or Doctor Who or something, isn't it?
There's actually a very liberating thing about death, because all the things that people want through being cryogenically frozen, which is obviously cure of their sickness and eternal life, is actually what you do get at resurrection, and you get this glorious new body.
Exactly.
You know, St. Paul talks the hope of glory is what we look forward to, and the hope of glory isn't in cryogenic freezing; it's in being raised on the last day.
Why would you want to keep putting this off? Actually, I mean, that's all you're doing is putting off that final glorious moment.
It's led by fear as well, rather than love and trust.
But there's a deeper thing with it, though. It's all to do with, going right back to the idea of the Greeks, it's to do with and the Egyptians, it's to do with this idea that we, through our own power, can overcome our own vulnerabilities.
Absolutely.
And as soon as we accept our vulnerabilities, we live a much more fulfilled and loving life now, because we understand that we're reliant on others and we can't all do it ourselves, which is the central lie of that Greek and now modern idea, that through our own power we can save ourselves.
Absolutely. So I think, you know, we want to say actually death isn't a thing that should be feared in the way so many people do, that actually if we're trusting Jesus, death is the most wonderful thing, because that's when, you know, we move into eternal life. So actually cryogenic freezing, you know, maybe one day it will work, maybe it won't, but actually it's not where you need to be putting your trust and your hope for the future.
So thanks for watching. Whatever the future brings, be it Idiocracy or Buck Rogers, I've lost my train of thought. I was going to say.
I hope it's neither, actually.
Don't forget to like, tweet, share.
Going home. That's what I'll have at my funeral. I'll have Iron Maiden's Going Home.
And will everyone be wearing Ghostbusters t-shirts?
No, they're all going to be wearing Iron Maiden t-shirts.
Oh, okay.
Is that what you wear when you go on your little exorcisms that you do?
No, the reason the kids bought
phone numbers on the back.
No, the reason the kids bought
Who are you
it
going to
for
call?
me